Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Hello and welcome into another edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kevin Mahalik. It is Monday, November 9th. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend out there. It was a fantastic football weekend across the board. Saturday, Clemson and Notre Dame had an excellent battle, went into double overtime, and Florida, Georgia was a good one, with the Florida Gators prevailing and possibly having a chance at the playoff now. And then on Sunday, NFL Sunday, of course, was crazy with the Bills, Seahawks. Sunday night here, you got the Bucs, Saints, the Cowboys trying to hang on against the Steelers. It's just pandemonium as always. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the weather wherever you're at. I know here in the Northeast in Philadelphia, we were in the 70s, and we're going to be in the 70s once again on Monday if you're listening to this, and it is unseasonably warm, that's for sure. So I was out there running around, having a good time, and enjoying it while I can here, because I know wintertime's right around the corner, and I know that because Christmas music has officially hit the radio. I was driving to and from my parents' house this weekend. On the way to my parents' house, there was not Christmas music on the station that plays it every year. And then coming back, they had switched over to the Christmas tunes. And then you know it's time where the weather's going to turn and things are going to get cold quickly. So if it's warm where you're at, enjoy yourself, get out there, have some fun. But this is the GSMC Baseball Podcast, and we got a great show lined up for you here today. In the first segment, we'll talk about the Silver Slugger Award winners who were recently announced. Then on the second segment, I'll get into conversation around AJ Hinch and Cora finding employment once again after both of their suspensions were up after the calendar year. And then at the tail end of the episode, we'll talk about, let's see, what are we going to talk about? I got to flip my page forward here. We're going to talk about, we're going to give you guys a minor league update, an update in the conversation between the major leagues and the minor leagues and what that's going to look like. And then finally wrapping up the show talking about the top prospects in 2021 from those minor league systems. So it's a great show, but let's jump into it right here off the top. Talking Silver Slugger Award winners, and we'll go position by position, and of course, one National League, one American League award winner, but here in 2020, there will be a designated hitter award given to both leagues. Normally, the National League hands out one to the pitcher's position, but here in 2020, things are a little different, so the DH is going to get it in both leagues. But the definition of the Silver Slugger Award, if you're wondering what the heck is that, so it is given the, quote, top offensive honor, end quote, in Major League Baseball. And it's voted on by coaches and managers across the league. So no player vote, no media vote, just managers and coaching staffs basically voting on each position who they believe is the best person offensively or had the best year offensively in that position. So started off with first base in the American League. The winner is Jose Abreu for the White Sox. This is his third Silver Slugger Award. He is a MVP finalist this year. Let's see, he had 60 RBIs in 60 games. He led the American League in hits with 76. He had a slugging percentage of .617, and his line of 19 home runs and 60 RBIs would have put him on pace for 51 and, of course, 162 over a 162-game season. So Jose Abreu continued to mash the baseball offensively, and it's put him right up there. If you guys listen, you know my prediction. I think he's going to win the American League MVP award. And I think this other guy's the National League MVP award winner. So Freddie Freeman wins the National League First Base Award. It'll be his second for his career. He's a finalist for MVP. I think they both win it. He hit .341 this year, 13 home runs, 53 RBIs, and he led Major League Baseball with 37 extra base hits. That was, looks like 3 more than the next guy here on the list. And Freddie Freeman just continues to be a monster offensively. He's a master at using all fields. And recently, over the past couple of years, he's started to hit for more power because he said in a few interviews he's actually concentrated on it more in his training and batting practice and, working to lift the baseball and not just hit for average, but extend these power numbers. And we've seen here over the past couple of weeks, man, if he can continue to do this, this guy's going to be scary for a long, long time. So jumping around now, second base, let's see. The American League winner is DJ LeMahieu of the New York Yankees. Of course, LeMahieu won the batting title in the American League. That's his second batting title of his career. He took one home in 2016. He led the league with a .364 batting average this year, and he also had a .421 on-base percentage, which was tops in the American League. So not only is he a good hitter, he's starting to hit for power as well, because the .364 average leading to the 1.011 OPS for LeMahieu. And this is his second career award for the Silver Slugger, and of course, him being a free agent, one of the storylines here moving forward is who pays DJ LeMahieu and where does he end up? Does it go back to New York or does somebody out there maybe give him a little bit of cash and pull him away from the big city? So the National League Award winner, let's see, at second base is Donovan Solano of the San Francisco Giants. This is his first career Silver Slugger Award. He had a breakout 2019 season, and he followed that up with a tremendous 2020 season. So in 2019, he hit .330 over 81 games, and now at 32 years old in 2020, he hit .326 over 54. So as a matter of fact, his entire on-base slugging line for the past 2 years now, which if you add the games together is really the course of one big league season, is a fantastic year. 2019 over 81 games, .330, .360, .456. And then this year, over the course of 54 games, .326, .365, and .463. So over the course of 155 games, more or less, this guy has shown that he is a tremendous hitter and that the pitchers have yet to figure him out. But that'll be something here moving forward. If not, the San Francisco Giants, yes, he's 32 years old, but should have a quality second baseman for the next number of years here. Going now to the shortstop position, we're looking at the American League winner, Tim Anderson. This is his first career Silver Slugger Award. He won the American League batting title in 2019, but that didn't translate to the Silver Slugger Award. It just goes to show how he was a tremendous hitter for average, but now he's adding some pop and some power to those numbers, because here in 2020, the average dipped down to .322, but he added 10 home runs and 11 doubles while scoring a league-best 45 runs. So he was a big cog in the middle of that White Sox lineup. He missed a few games with an injury, and we saw the reflection in the performance from the White Sox. So Tim Anderson has shown now if he can continue to add the power, continue to add some pop to his bat here, he's going to be one of the best players in baseball all around for the next couple of years. And the gentleman on the National League side of things at shortstop as well, man, I mean, he cooled off and he's not going to be the MVP, but Fernando Tatis Jr. had a tremendous start to 2020, and this will be his first Silver Slugger Award for him. He led all shortstops with home runs, 17 RBIs, 45 runs scored with 50. He also led all players, regardless of position this year, in hard hit balls, exit velocity or average exit velocity has a tick under 96 miles an hour, and hard hit balls led to the hard hit percentage being at the top of the list for Major League Baseball as well. So this guy was hitting balls hard all year, which obviously led to quality production, even though he did have a bit of a down September, we should say. He was in a bit of a slump there for a couple of weeks. So Fernando Tatis wins in the National League and Tim Anderson in the American League. Third base, your winners on the American League side, Jose Ramirez. This is his third award. He earned back-to-back Silver Sluggers in 17 and 18. Then he had a disappointing 19, but he responded back with a great performance here in 2020. 17 home runs, 10 stolen bases. The 17 home runs put him on pace for 45. So he showed that he was able to bounce back, and looks like the Indians should continue to be set there at third base moving forward. On the National League side of things, Manny Machado takes home his first Silver Slugger Award. 4-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove, but now he's actually won a Silver Slugger as well. He had a tremendous offensive season, hit .304, 16 home runs, 47 RBIs, and played in all 60 games for the San Diego Padres. So very quietly this year, Manny Machado hitting with Fernando Tatis Jr., those guys in the middle of that lineup, both Silver Sluggers. That's going to be fun to watch, them going up against the Dodgers here over the next 3, 5, 7 years, depending on how the Machado contract plays out with some opt-outs and some cash flow. But now the catcher's position, the American League winner, Salvador Perez. It's his third career award. He missed 2019 due to Tommy John surgery, but he had arguably the best year of his career in the shortened season. He hit .333 with a .633 slugging percentage, which his previous career high was .495. So Perez really showing that he came back stronger in that rehab for the elbow. He was able to strengthen the entirety of his body and have a fantastic year this year. On the National League side, we have Travis d'Arnaud as the winner, and he takes home his first Silver Slugger Award for the Atlanta Braves. He hit .321 with a .919 OPS. That's 200 points higher than his career average coming into this year. So at the age of 31, he decided hitting in the middle of the Atlanta lineup, maybe he was getting a couple more fastballs than he's used to with the number of guys around him winning this award, and he certainly took advantage of it in 2020 for his first Silver Slugger. Now we'll jump to the outfield. Of course, there's 3 winners in each league. In the American League side of things, we have Mike Trout winning his 8th award, and his 8th award ties him for second most all time with Manny Ramirez. And, of course, number 1 on that list is Barry Bonds with 12. And Trout, I believe, if he continues on his path, will exceed that number. So it'll be a fascinating storyline to watch throughout the decade of 2020s. But Trout this year with 17 home runs and 46 RBIs in 53 games, really not showing any signs of slowing down anytime soon out west. And the next couple of gentlemen, they get on the board for the first time. Teoscar Hernandez for the Toronto Blue Jays, or the Buffalo Blue Jays of 2020. He broke out this year, 16 home runs. He hit .289. And while his average of 11.9 at-bats per home run was 4th best in the league this year. So some pop being shown by Hernandez really out of nowhere up there in Toronto, but they'll certainly take that, and he could be a key plug there in the middle of that lineup. And another winner for the White Sox, Eloy Jimenez. He takes home his first award. He had a very promising rookie campaign in 2019, but was even better in 2020. He hit .296, 14 home runs, 41 RBIs, pairing him with Jose Abreu and Tim Anderson as 3 White Sox winners of Silver Sluggers in the American League. So a very impressive feat from that offense, and all 3 guys coming back next year should be fun to watch. In the National League, we have Juan Soto winning his first award. Is anybody out there surprised by that one? I think this is going to be one of close to 10, 15, similar to Mike Trout, because as young as Soto is and as impressive as he is, these are just going to, pile up in numbers here. But he led the majors in on-base slugging and just almost everything else. But .351 average in 47 games, certainly impressive. The next couple of names you'll recognize, Mookie Betts. It's his 4th award, and he wins his first in a Dodgers uniform. He hit .292 with 16 home runs in 55 games, and this is his 3rd straight Silver Slugger Award for Betts in 4 out of the last 5 years. So he continues to show why him and Trout are the top 2 names talked about as the top players in all of baseball. And then the last outfielder in the National League, Ronald Acuna Jr. So Acuna picks up his second consecutive Silver Slugger. He had a .406 on base percentage, .581 slugging percentage. Those were both career highs. Now, of course, he's young in his career, but both career highs, and 14 home runs, 8 steals in 46 games. And Acuna Jr., you could maybe pencil in here moving forward as well. So Acuna Jr., Betts, and Juan Soto, 3 guys that I may call once again in 12 months from now when I'm talking about the winners of the Silver Slugger Awards. And lastly here, the designated hitters position, of course, once again, because there's no pitchers hitting this year in the National League. The American League winner was Nelson Cruz. No surprise, his 4th of his career. And the 40-year-old doesn't appear to be slowing down, as he has won 3 out of 4. The 3 out of the 4 last years, he's won the Silver Slugger. He hit .303, 16 home runs in 53 games, and man, he has, here's a good stat. So since 2009, Nelson Cruz has hit 395 home runs, which is 37 more than anybody else over the course of that span. So over the course of the last 11 years, Nelson Cruz is your home run champion, and he had another fantastic year in 2020. And the last winner here, Marcell Ozuna of the Atlanta Braves. So 4 winners for the Braves this year. 3 for the White Sox, 4 for the Braves. Ozuna, Freeman, Acuna, and D'Arnaud was the surprise out of the 4 there, because those other 3 are obvious tremendous names, with Ozuna hitting 18 home runs, 56 RBIs, and hitting .338, and winning his 2nd of his career after he won one as a member of the Marlins a handful of years ago. So not a lot of surprises in that list, of course. All those guys we knew had tremendous years, and they've just added to their awards collection with the 2020 Silver Slugger Award, voted on by coaches and managers across the league. But that'll wrap things up here for the first segment of the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kevin Mahalik. We'll pause right now for a word from one of our sponsors, one of our sister shows, but when we come back, I'll talk about AJ Hinch and Alex Cora getting another opportunity to manage. So stick around, everyone. We'll be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thanks again for listening to today's episode of the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kevin Mahalik. It's Monday, November 9th. Once again, I hope everybody's having a great day out there. Whenever you're listening to this, it's released on the 9th, but the beauty of podcasts is they're on-demand audio. I know this one here, I believe, is episode number 353 of the Baseball Podcast, and essentially that means that there are 352 backlogged episodes. So if you guys are new to the program here, you've only been listening for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, you can go all the way back through 350 episodes, and they're all time-stamped or dated, so you know what part of the summer we're talking about, so you can go back to see what we have to say early in the year or during the pandemic or all the way back to December, January, however far you want to go. You can check those out on demand wherever you get your podcasts. So wherever you're listening to this one, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, all the different podcast outlets nowadays, please, please, please rate and review the podcast, because we very much appreciate you guys sharing this with your friends. I know I ask you every episode to do so to one person, whether it's in a group text or one-off or over dinner. Just say, hey, I checked out this new podcast. It's called GSMC. Share the link, let them know. But doing the comments and the likes, specifically within the Apple algorithm, that really helps spread the word, and it really helps, grow our audience and get us up the charts, so to speak, to continue to be spread and grow for you guys to give you quality content as we continue to move forward here. But thanks again for joining me. Today's a great episode. Now we're going to get into some managerial hire reactions. I know last week I talked to you guys about Tony La Russa being hired by the Chicago White Sox, and now he's the oldest manager in Major League Baseball, even older than Dusty Baker, who was recently hired, and how is he going to be able to transfer into the new age baseball and all the different shifts and communication with players nowadays, different generations, different, just kind of upbringing, social media, all of that type of stuff. Are they going to be able to relate? And these two hires that were recently hired, one by the Tigers and one by the Red Sox, they won't have those issues, but they have other issues and other conversations that are going to follow wherever they go. Because the first name we heard, maybe about a week or so now, was AJ Hinch for the Detroit Tigers. And AJ Hinch, previously of the Houston Astros, of course, everybody knows what happened in Houston. I'm not going to take the next 5 minutes reliving all of the different scandals, the trash can banging, live monitor using, buzzer wearing, all of that different type of stuff going on down there in Houston. And, of course, AJ Hinch was suspended for 1 year. And now that his year has come to an end, he is right back in the game with the Detroit Tigers. And how do I feel about this? And to be honest with you, I'm a bit conflicted because, I've met AJ Hinch. I've had a couple of quick conversations with AJ Hinch, and he's a fantastic guy. He's always been nice to me. He's always had quality conversations, acted like he's interested, even if he's not, type of thing. So as a guy, as a human, from what my experiences are and, my communication within the league, within players who have played for him or, played for him in the past, even during his time with the Arizona Diamondbacks, where they only speak highly of AJ Hinch. And, I was sitting down having dinner with a buddy. He walked by, he stopped by, had a quick conversation, went on his way. It was just a general pleasant interaction and something where I'm like, man, I can root for this guy. And I certainly was up until, what we now know and what has been released. So how much should that weigh on you giving a guy a second opportunity? Is it very similar to PEDs and the suspension that players have for PEDs? Because, of course, that penalty has gone up to, 80 games now, then 162 games, and then a suspension or blacklist from all of baseball. And now AJ Hinch, they kind of went right to stage 2 with him and Alex Cora, of course, who is the other hire for the Boston Red Sox that we're going to get to and discuss. But AJ Hinch, he was suspended for a year, so they kind of went to step 2. Now, okay, hey, this is your last chance. We'll give you one more shot. And based on your track record, we think you're a fantastic option. And in Detroit, it's tough to, just throw aside the resume of 2017, 2018, and 2019 for what A.J. Hinch was able to do with that ball club down there in Houston. 2017, so he took over in 2015 for Houston, and he went 86-76 in his first year, finished second in the division, looks like here. And then in 2016, he went 84-78, finishing third in the division. When that true jump came, of course, in 2017, and you can get into reasons why, but 101-61, and a first-place finish, World Series champions for the Houston Astros, followed that up with 2018, going 103-59, and then, of course, 2019, their best overall regular season record at 107-55, and they won the American League before falling to the Washington Nationals in Game 7 of the World Series. So, overall, 5 years in Houston, 481 and 329 for a 594 winning percentage. And Oh, man, that is just impressive. And what I like here on Baseball Reference is, too, just some numbers for you guys that, truly don't matter, but just a lot of fun to look at is challenges versus overturned. And my man AJ Hinch kind of lives right under 50%. He's at a career 46.2. So he likes to challenge, doesn't win all of them, as well as ejections. He was ejected a total of 11 times in 5 years for the Astros, so really only gets thrown out a couple of times. Like I said, good guy, decent guy, not emotional, doesn't overreact, all of that good stuff. Of course, he was a manager for the Diamondbacks, like I mentioned, back in 2009 and 2010. He was 89 and 123 over the course of 2 years there. He took over halfway through a year, or was let go in the middle of a year, it looks like here, based on the record. So he learned some things in between his time with the Diamondbacks in Houston, but his last couple of years were fantastic. So does he deserve a second chance? I'll kind of wait on my overall thoughts until we talk about this next guy. And the third and final manager's position was ultimately filled when the Red Sox, I guess I'll call it, rehired Alex Cora. They brought him back for his second stint as manager of the Boston Red Sox. Alex Cora and AJ Hinch were both suspended at the same time in regards to their involvement with the Astros scandal, and then a subsequent follow-up investigation around the Red Sox in 2018 where they won the World Series with Alex Cora as manager. And they went 108 and 54 in that year, Cora's first year, bringing over what he had learned from Houston, winning the World Series in 2017. Now, of course, we've read the reports. We know all the information that's come out. It doesn't seem to be believed that the Red Sox were doing what the Astros were doing. They were, messing around a little bit, kind of, but nowhere near that level. And it was just an overall culture issue that led to Carlos Beltran and Alex Cora having to step aside. So does Alex Cora deserve another shot right with the team that he was caught cheating with? But again, it wasn't overly aggressive with that current team. He more got fired for his involvement in a scandal from a previous team. So, it kind of gets down to the core of things where looking at some of the conversations and some of the quotes that have been said here by Chaim Bloom, the new vice president and general manager up there in Boston. This was his pick for manager, and Chaim wasn't there when all of this had, gone down and broken down. So Chaim obviously, he mentioned here he wanted to talk to Alex Cora to, see and get behind the curtain. Once here he says, quote, because of all that had happened, I knew I wanted to speak with Alex once his suspension ended, but I didn't know yet if it made sense to consider him for the job. Our conversations were lengthy, intense, and emotional. Alex knows that what he did was wrong, and he regrets it. He loves the Red Sox and the game of baseball, and because of what we believe, he will make good on this second chance. So, end quote. So, Chaim Bloom basically said, I sat down with Alex Cora. I had a man-to-man conversation. I had multiple man-to-man conversations with me. He admitted to doing wrong. He talked about how he's going to learn from it, how he's going to be better moving forward. And, honestly, with the second chance, it's difficult with the exact same team. I guess that's where my holdup or my confusion was. Of course, AJ Hinch to Detroit, it makes sense. Hey, we let you go from Houston. We can't really have you back here because we talked about the culture and the environment that was predicated on the cheating really being the issue, just beyond the sheer fact that you broke the rules. And this was the ultimate reasoning for the Alex Cora dismissal in Boston. So to have a hire return to the same team or organization that dismissed him or suspended him to go along with Major League Baseball because of the clubhouse environment or how things were run behind the scenes. And, a year later, I understand people improve, people get better, but it's just on the surface level, not a great look to say, hey, we rehired a guy who we knew was cheating kind of in the past. And yeah, he had to sit out for a year, and now he's back. But at the same time, he didn't do any cheating in this cultural environment. He just didn't blow the whistle on the last one in Houston. And, again, everybody who talks about Alex Cora, David Price, was texting some media members, speaking about how everybody respects him, speaks very highly of him, great dude, good character dude. And, and that's where I don't dislike Alex Cora. I can't sit here and be like, oh, man, this guy doesn't deserve a second chance. AJ Hinch should never be allowed back in the game, because I'm also on the side more so of the fact that steroid users should be in the Hall of Fame. I know that's a hot take here to end segment number 2 without really getting into some detail. And maybe if you guys want to hear more about my thoughts on that, we can certainly turn it into a segment on a later episode. Let me know in the comments or reviews, wherever you guys leave those. But if Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, all of these guys, I believe, should be in the Hall of Fame, I also think that managers should be given a second chance and being allowed to manage. Now, of course, I think Major League Baseball should, maybe take an eye on them sometimes. Yeah, NFL mask policed style that's going on right now. Maybe you get a little bit of that in the MLB, kind of send somebody in undercover from time to time just to check things out, maybe make sure things have improved. But, ultimately, I don't dislike the hire. I think Alex Cora in Boston is a great fit. Honestly, I think AJ Hinch in Detroit is a fantastic fit. Detroit and their rebuild process is at a very similar point to where the Astros were in 2015 when Hinch took over. Yeah, they're probably a year or two away, but they're laying the foundation. They're laying the ground pieces with Mize, with Torkelson, moving forward to kind of have those building blocks to build around. And with AJ Hinch doing that with the core of Springer, Correa, Altuve, all these guys down there, I like the move in Detroit. And then Boston, Correa obviously knows the organization. He's won there, knows the media, knows how to work the big city, the bright lights, and the tough environment that can be the Boston sports scene. So it's a good hire for Cora as well. Alex Cora, just quickly here, he's an average 58% overturn percentage on challenges, so a bit better than AJ Hinch, although he's only been thrown out 3 times in 2 years. So he's under that 2 per year, baseline Hinch was showing. So overall, I got to say I was surprised about Cora back to the Red Sox. Not surprised about Cora getting an opportunity, because I assumed the moment after Hinch's and Cora's suspensions were back, they would gain employment. So when I saw Hinch to Detroit, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Kind of Midwest, not great team. He can kind of get buried for a couple of years, and then by the time they're good, nobody will really remember, or it'll be kind of like a sub-note on the conversation. But Alex Cora going right back to the market where he was dismissed, right back to the market where he won a World Series. That headline, I was just like, oh, man, that's surprising. But Chaim Bloom stands by the decision. It's a different regime that ultimately let him go, so he has a different boss, a different work environment, a different direction of the club. But I still think Cora is a nice fit there moving forward. And that'll wrap it up here for segment number 2 of the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kevin Mahalik. As always, we'll pause one more time here for a word from one of our sponsors and one of our sister shows. But when we come back, I'll give you guys an update on what's going on in the negotiations between Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball. What the heck is it going to look like in 2021? Stick around and find out.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be, visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thanks again for listening, and welcome back to the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kevin Mahalik. Thanks for riding with me here. Segment number 3, we're going to dive into some minor league baseball conversation. This is a topic that I haven't seen get a lot of traction out there, of course, because it's not at the front of everybody's mind. I know there was something going on across the country within the past week or so that everybody's had a lot of attention on. A lot of the news people are covering it, and even sports are involved. So there's stuff going on out there that, has taken away from conversation that behind the scenes has continued to take place, because here we are transitioning into the second week of November, and looking at the calendar, things are going to be 2021 very quickly here. And I say things meaning like calendar, years of sports, right? So like basketball, they play through the new year, but with the extension, the bubble, all of that, it's come out recently that they are going to come back and start December 22nd. So they will start right before Christmas going into next year. Hockey's still having a conversation around what's going on, and minor league baseball is having very similar conversations, because if you guys have been listeners here for a few months now, we discussed a lot of this before this past season started during the coronavirus shutdown and the break into what's happening. But minor league baseball has basically, been purchased or will now be owned by Major League Baseball is the simplistic way to put it, because as of right now, Major League Baseball doesn't operate minor league baseball, like within the logistics and all of that stuff. Well, that is now changing in 2021. And the minor league baseball headquarters down in Florida will be disbanding. They will no longer be an organization. And essentially what has happened is direct owners of minor league teams are now putting together a team or a committee to negotiate with Major League Baseball directly to figure out the new structure or the new plan, because the disconnect from the minors to the majors in regards to quality of life and cost of living, cost of payment, wages, all of that stuff just continued to widen to where I think big picture, this is certainly a good thing for Major League Baseball. But let's get into some notes, some news. I may jump around here a little bit because, I was talking to some people and took notes throughout the conversations and tried to put them all together here into one outline, so to speak, to best communicate them to you guys out there. But the long short of it is minor league baseball moving forward, and this part is pretty much agreed on. Now, of course, they can't release it, because, all right, let me just go here. So 120 minor league teams will be the standard moving forward. There will be a low A team, a high A team, a double A team, and a triple A team. Now, 30 organizations, 4 levels of minor league baseball, 120 minor league teams. Now, how many are there currently? It depends on if you're counting rookie ball, if you're counting extended spring training. But on the sheer level, just say rookie ball and mid-A are 2 levels that will be cut cleanly from the minor league system. Now, what does this mean for the number of players? And this is something that is part of the conversation, and the exact answer isn't known. But it looks like there will be about 25 to 30 players on each level. And in past history or past organizations, there were a limit as to the number of players you could have at a certain level, but they would sort of manipulate the data day in and day out to the point where, yes, 25 people could be on the roster, but 27 or 28 guys would travel with the team, and then after a series or a game, they would, injured list, sick list, whatever it was, they would get guys filtered in. So I think Major League Baseball is kind of taking a look at that on if they can just have a different level of or anybody under 30, any number of people under 30 could be there, because they're not going to, and this is, again, through conversation, none of this is concrete, none of this is 100% reporting or factual. It's just what I'm hearing through the grapevine and through the rumor circuit is 30 players per team, so you're looking at 120 guys, looking per organization for teams, right? But there may be an additional 30 at what they're going to call a complex team. So essentially the spring training complex will be able to have an additional 30 guys to make up a team, which gives you right around 150 players per organization for the minor leagues. Now, quick math, quick numbers. You look at the Yankees, Phillies, say they have 7 minor league affiliates currently at the very minimum on each level, 25 guys per level. Times 7, that's 175. And again, you have injured lists, you have guys manipulating rosters, so you're looking at probably just under 200 guys per organization that will now be going down to right around 150, whether it's 155, 145. Nobody really knows exactly where that number is going to fall, but we're going to have 4 teams plus a spring training complex team, essentially, and then 30 players per team. So 150 guys over 4 teams and an extended spring training. Those numbers are pretty much agreed to. Those numbers are pretty well set. So that's not where the continued conversation is being had here over the next couple of weeks. Where the conversation is being had is, who are those 120 teams going to be? Because currently, like I mentioned, if there's 6 or 7, you're looking at 30 teams, 180, let's call it 200 for even math, current teams affiliated with Major League Baseball teams. So you're looking at 50 to, 75, 80 again, if we're using round numbers, of teams that are going to go from Major League Baseball affiliation to either out of business or connected to something completely different. And they can't determine the 120 teams until they figure out the economic plan for 2021 moving forward, because all of these teams have been run independently and been governed kind of by themselves in regards to ticket prices, sizes, travel in the team, whether it's airplane, bus, overnights, food, and how much they invest into the team themselves. And this is all part of the conversation that will be happening. But, the Major League Baseball is now going to own all of those decisions moving forward, right? They're going to basically schedule everyone's schedule. You know how they do the major league level? They're now going to do the minor league level. Before, that wasn't part of their job description. That's not something they had to worry about. So they're looking at all the rules that will now be implemented into minor league baseball. Before, you could say, okay, yeah, no pitch count in the big leagues, but at AAA, we got a pitch count. In AA, we got a 3-batter minimum. In single A, designated hitter across the board. They were able to determine which ones they wanted to implement and where without the consent of Major League Baseball. So one level away from the big leagues, they're saying, hey, we got a pitcher's clock. And in the big leagues, they're going, no, it doesn't matter. So now they will be on the same page in regards to rules, schedules. You also have sponsorships. Look for the official drink of minor league baseball or the official partner, Ford, insert company name here of minor league baseball. So now the majors can sell to sponsorships and corporations that, hey, all of minor league baseball can be affiliated, not just the Reading Phillies or the Durham Bulls or, insert team here. you can now partner at a, corporation level to basically say across the board that Coke or Pepsi is the official soft drink of minor league baseball. So that's part of everything they're figuring out economically, because they have to put together the economic package in order to determine who the 120 teams will be, because there are owners of these teams, think of them as business owners, who are basically saying, hey, show me your plan moving forward, and I'll decide whether or not I want to be a part of that, or maybe I'll liquidate my assets and sell the team and move elsewhere. Because right now, short-term compared to long-term, the difference has been that the value of owning a team at the minor league level has increased exponentially. I mean, from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, just the value of the team has increased. Now, if you can convince these owners that that will continue to happen over 5-7 years, and yes, you may lose, $500,000, $1 million in 2021 on operation costs because, with the new schedule and with the health and safety protocols that will have to be implemented in the safety protocols, and you'll probably need 2 team buses instead of 1 team bus, and who's paying for that? Well, you're going to pay for that because we're not going to pay for it, but you're going to take a loss of $500,000 to $1 million in 2021, but the value of your team that went from $10 million to $15 million the last 3 years will go from $15 million to $25 million over the next 5 years. So take the immediate loss if the value of the overall team continues to increase. And that's the big picture that a lot of these small business owners, I'll call them, or team owners, are looking for in the conversations. Because again, Major League Baseball, they're looking at reduced traveling. They've sent out a memo to all of these teams that they now have to improve their facilities to a certain standard. And that doesn't mean capacity. That doesn't mean adding more fans. We want more money. It means the clubhouses. It means the training rooms. It means the showers, the locker rooms, and, of course, all the health concerns. I talked about multiple buses. Well, within the upgraded facilities, there's obviously going to need to be more space because a lot of things now are 6 feet apart. And moving forward, even when there, isn't a coronavirus, I'm sure people may want to stay more distant. So all of these upgrades will need to be had or need to be made to your facility. So if you're an owner whose stadium was built in 1995 and you haven't upgraded the lighting since, you're going to have to put some cash into those lights, and that's going to be a cost up front. But again, if the value of the team itself appreciates at the level that it has in the past, and everyone believes it will continue to in the future, then you're going to invest in those lights. You're going to invest in the clubhouse, and you're going to do your darndest to be part of the 120 teams that ultimately make the cut and align themselves with Major League Baseball. So once we get to that point, once we get to 120 teams, just, hey, we figured out economically, this is our plan moving forward, this is what we're looking at, these are expected losses, expected revenues. Now we've decided, okay, you 120 teams are the ones that align best with what we're looking for, align best with the, the culture, all of that good stuff. Now becomes the puzzle of alignment with Major League Baseball. Because I've said it a couple points, reducing travel. Well, basically in doing that, they are blowing up all current affiliations where it doesn't make sense. Now, some teams, this won't be a big deal. The Phillies in Philadelphia have the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, which downtown Philly to where they are, hour and a half. Their Double-A team, the Reading Fightin' Phils, they're an hour and a half from downtown. But the Single-A ball club in Clearwater, there's a lot of Single-A teams down there, so that's not a big deal. But basically how it presents itself is Triple-A, New York Mets. Their Triple-A team's out in Las Vegas. It doesn't make a lot of sense for them to have a Triple-A team in Vegas when there's probably a Triple-A team associated now. Let's say it here. Let's just throw it out there. Okay, Rochester. The Minnesota Twins Triple-A team, Rochester, New York. The The Mets AAA team, Las Vegas. Now, it doesn't flip correctly, but step one would be, okay, Rochester is now the Mets team, since they can go back and forth within a day. Vegas, yeah, that's not close to Minneapolis, but let's continue down the puzzle. And that's basically what I'm saying. Now they got to get 120 pieces as close to the highest level, starting with AAA. Where can we get the closest facilities to the big league teams? Then try to do our best with AA while maintaining not a lot of travel within the leagues themselves in regards to the schedule. Then you go to single A like Clearwater. Okay, there's a ton of single A's in Florida. We'll keep that how it is. But this is all things that they need to figure out here over the course of the next weeks or next month. And at the end of the day, do I think we're going to get an answer? Do I think we're going to get an agreement? And without getting into details, I think the answer is yes, now that we have gotten past the election, because no, not on a national level, Trump, Biden, but on a local level, governors, senators, House of Representatives, things like that. There are some people in cities who are represented in states that may have some say as to whether or not their team makes the cut for the number of 120, or how they feel economically this could help their local market, or they're going to bat to continue this team here because it's a lifeblood of the economy. So there were some political issues that needed to be sorted out within baseball and how this works. And again, business is business. It's all interconnected. As much as we like to keep sports, business, politics all separated, the three of them really are in a mesh point within this agreement, within the world we're in, with coronavirus, presidential elections, change in government. It all comes together to a mesh point here within November to where now we have some answers. So we have these questions. Okay, now we have answers. Now we can get to this stage. And now we are less dependent on time. And, November 3rd being the date we'll find out this answer. The answers we need now are independent of time. So it's just a matter of having conversations, making decisions. And I feel, based on what I've heard and the conversations I've had, that we should have something by the end of the month. And if not by the end of November, certainly by the end of the year and early December, because the sooner the better. Getting into spring training dates, getting into operations for 2021, the knowledge for these owners, local business guys, team owners, is huge. So baseball's trying to get this done as quickly as possible, as well as these minor league owners. So I anticipate a decision here within the next 3 weeks by the end of November. But that'll wrap it up, our minor league baseball conversation. The long short of it is, we should have an agreement. We should have minor league baseball. Is it going to be 140 games across the board for every level? We don't know. I'm not guessing. A lot of questions remain, but we should have baseball beyond Major League Baseball next year here in America. And that's good news if you're a baseball fan like me who enjoys AA, AAA, going to see the kids play before they make it to the show. So that'll wrap it up here for the third segment. We'll pause one last time for a word from one of our sponsors and one of our sister shows. But when we come back, I'll talk to you guys about the top prospects in 2021. The guys who weren't around yet that may flash onto the scene. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Welcome back to the fourth and final segment of the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kevin Mahalik. It's been a fun one here today, and we got a great fourth segment lined up for you. If you haven't done so yet, though, do me a favor. First, check us out on social media. Head to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Follow the GSMC Baseball Podcast. as well as you can check out the GSMC Podcast Network on LinkedIn, Facebook, across the board, because if you're into anything other than baseball, which I'm sure you are, we all have hobbies, we all have other interests out there, whether it's news, politics, books, movies, whatever it is, there's a podcast within the network that's talking about it, that's discussing it, and a lot of them are fantastic. You know, I myself, I haven't dove into each and individual one, but I've listened to a couple, and I've had fun. Fantasy football, college football, NBA, all that good stuff. So if you're into sports, browse around. If you're into politics, news, books, check those out as well. But either way, head to social media and give us a follow there. So here in the fourth segment of today's episode, though, we like to have some fun here at the Baseball Podcast. And today we're discussing prospects. We're talking about the rankings, where they are right now, where I think they're going to be following next year, or who to look out for, because some of these guys have graduated and made it to the major leagues, and I'm not going to be talking about them here today, even though they still may qualify as a quote-unquote prospect here in 2021. I'm going to talk about the guys that maybe you haven't heard about yet. You know, you're a casual baseball fan who enjoys it. Well, these are the names you're going to want to remember, because these are the guys that are going to be really, really good, here in the near future. And, depending on expected arrival dates, some of them are sooner than later. And the top prospect in all of baseball is currently part of the Tampa Bay Rays organization. So the top team in the American League, World Series runner-up Tampa Bay Rays, and they're staring at a shortstop who is only 19 years old, but is not too far away. So, of course, none of these guys played in 2020, but my man Wander Franco advanced to high A ball in 2019, where he hit .408 after hitting .390 in A ball. So this past summer, he would have been AA, AAA, probably looking at a 2021 arrival, but now, maybe still 2021, probably 2022. But Franco signed with the Rays for $3.8 million out of the international class in 2017-2018. So he's done nothing but hit offensively. He looks to be fantastic at the shortstop position, and a guy that as of right now at 19 is somebody you could see sooner than later. So second overall prospect, Adley Rutschman of the Baltimore Orioles. Adley's a catcher who, let's see, his last year in 2019, he made it as high as A-ball. Started out in rookie ball, short spring, then to A-ball, but he was able to mash, and he came off a junior year at Oregon State and was the top player in the 2019 draft after they won the College World Series and was the College World Series most outstanding player. He then went on to play with Team USA. So Adley, a big arm, big hitter behind the dish, 6'2", 220. He's a switch hitter as well, so that goes a long way in allowing him to continue to be in the advantage at the dish. But that's a guy who we're going to love to see here in Baltimore as, probably 2022 for him. But again, these guys, maybe they're rushed. I don't know. Where the minor league system is. Again, I just talked about that agreement that we should know more about in a couple of weeks, but those two guys are going to be a lot of fun to watch. The top pitcher on the list here, Mackenzie Gore of the San Diego Padres. Mackenzie, 21 years old. In 2019, he got up to AA ball, where he was 2-1 with a 4.15 ERA, but big left-hander, he basically grades out at a 60 grade across the board. The scale is from 20 to 80, so he is just solid with everything: curveball, changeup, slider, fastball, control, all of the above. So he won the 2017 Gatorade National Player of the Year honors after he went 11-0 with a .19 ERA. So what did he probably give up? One run there that summer in high school? But that'll be fascinating to watch. So number 4 on the list, Spencer Torkelson. Spencer, of course, he was drafted number 1 overall out of Arizona State. He did not play this past summer due to coronavirus, and that was his first year as a minor league professional. But number 1 overall pick, third base, first base, Detroit. He looks to be a couple of years out with his defense. Probably give him 1.5 years before he makes an appearance. But the Tigers are certainly excited about what he looks like moving forward. Next on the list, you got Royce Lewis, shortstop for the Minnesota Twins. Royce was in Double-A in 2019. He hit .291 in 33 games at that level after being promoted from high A ball. And, he was the number 1 overall pick in 2017. So reached Double-A at the age of 20. He was in the Futures game. He has had some struggles, of course, as any kid does, but he looks to be the shortstop of the future in Minnesota. They're very happy with that pick. And for a kid who played at Double-A, I believe the next time we play, we're going to see him out there at some point during the summer for the Twins. So if you're a Twins fan, look forward to seeing Royce there at the big league level probably this upcoming summer. So next is Bobby Witt Jr., a shortstop for the Kansas City Royals. He was at the top of the board there in 2019. Adley Hutchinson actually went top, but high school shortstop Bobby Witt Jr. went number 2 overall. So the Royals were thrilled to have him there. In 2019, he played rookie ball, ended up hitting .317 in 37 games. So let's see, 6'1", 190, right-handed hitter. He'll look to grow into his body. He's a couple of years away, not as close as the rest of these top guys. And, the first high school kid we've seen kind of still right out of high school, and Bobby Witt Jr., but he does look to be the future at the shortstop spot for the Kansas City Royals. Okay, next up we have Jared Kalanick for the Seattle Mariners, an outfielder who was at Double-A a few years back. He's a big fella, 6'1". Looks to have a 60 hit grade, 60 run, 60 arm. So this guy can do it all, really, in the outfield there. But in 2019, he made it to Double-A where he was hitting .315 in 21 games. So he's hit at the A level, the high A level, and the Double-A level. And Seattle may look to pair him with Kyle Lewis out there in the outfield for the next decade or so. And that could be scary for the people out west there. So a couple of athletic power-hitting outfielders for Seattle, and they may be on to something here. So next on the list, we have Andrew Vaughn of the Chicago White Sox. Now, again, there are a few names in between here, but each one of them has had major league experience. So I'm talking about the guys really at the lower level, that the names that you guys should, continue to look at. So Andrew Vaughn, first baseman for the Chicago White Sox. Now, he's in high A ball, and yes, the White Sox do have the American League MVP currently at first base. So there is some overlap there in regards to the timeline, but hitting .388 in A ball and then .350 in high A ball, that gets you high on some people's lists, and that's exactly what's happening with Vaughn there in Chicago. So could he be used as trade bait if Jose Abreu continues to perform? Absolutely. But in the American League with the designated hitter role available, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Vaughn slide into that first base spot and then Abreu transition over to the DH role as he continues on with his career. So next on the list, Julio Rodriguez. And Julio, the 15th overall prospect. Jared Kalanick, number 9. Kyle Lewis, probably your rookie of the year in the American League. There's your outfielder of the future, Seattle Mariners fans. Those 3 guys should be roaming the grass out there, and, I call it Safeco Park, but I know it's been updated. I think it's T-Mobile Park now. But Rodriguez, Kalanick, and Lewis, man, that's going to be fun to watch. So let's see. Rodriguez, he got up to high A where he hit .514 in 17 games. So this guy really, broke out last year and outperformed, some of his expectations. He was an international free agent signing at $1.75 million. But Seattle is very, very happy with the return on investment that they've gotten so far from Julio. We have next Austin Martin. Everybody knows Austin Martin. He went 2nd overall this year behind Spencer Torkelson. Or no, I think he fell to 5th or 6th. That's right. But he was rated as the 2nd overall talent in the Major League Baseball draft, as he's got a 65 hit tool and a 60 overall grade for a shortstop outfield combination. So he's yet to play a professional game here, but certainly someone that has high expectations transitioning into the future. Forrest Whitley, people have heard that name since he's made it to AAA with the Houston Astros. He'll be a big picture of the team there in 2021. He did struggle at the AAA level after having a bit of struggles at AA as well. But early on in his career, and he's got all the goods, 65 fastball, 60 curveball, 60 slider. he just struggles with control and consistency from time to time, which leads to the blow-up inning and the big outing. But overall, he's got all the goods if he could put it together. We continue down the list here to Matt Manning, a right-handed pitcher for the Tigers. He's a double-A kid. He's the son of former NBA player Rich Manning. And in 2019, he was at double-A, where he went 11-5 with a 2.56 ERA. So a very solid summer at double-A a couple of years ago, pairing him with Casey Mize, another prospect who's now made it to the majors. But those two at the top of that rotation, like I said, pairing with some outfielders, get AJ Hinch involved, and you can kind of see the foundation being built, if you're a Tigers fan, for another run here in the future. Shortstop CJ Abrams for the San Diego Padres. He is, in 2019, he was at A-ball, where he only played in 2 games after getting promoted, but he was on a quick path. They were looking at him as possibly a quick mover this past summer. Now, of course, that didn't happen, and we all know the reason why, but CJ Abrams, a name to behold out there in San Diego. Do they move him to second base? Do they look to put him in the outfield? Do they dangle him in trade talk? Because that shortstop spot's pretty well taken care of for the next, 10 years, 15 years if things go well in San Diego. So that's where potentially the depth of CJ Abrams allows them to continue to be aggressive in trade talks and maybe go after that big fish here in the next couple of years that could put them over the top. Down for the Miami Marlins. They've had a couple of names on the list here that have recently been promoted to the bigs, but at the single-A level is J.J. Bleday. He's looking at 2021 expected date. He hit .311 for them in high A ball his first year after he was drafted at coming out of Vanderbilt. Everybody loves the SEC, loves Vanderbilt. They just pump out big league talent here recently, so I don't see why Bleday would be any different. Riley Green in Detroit, a nice outfield prospect for them. He's at A-ball and full A-ball. So a lot of Detroit Tigers here at the top of the list. Now, a lot of them are still young, single A, double A, but 1 to 2 to 3 years, you're liking what you're seeing here for the Tigers. The Royals have Asa Lacy, recent draft pick this year, rookie ball, left-hander. He looks good, 6'4", 215. He's got electric stuff. Let's see, Marco Luisiano for the San Francisco Giants. He's a shortstop. He's an international star that they signed recently. He in 2019, he played in 47 games. 38 of them took place in rookie ball, where he hit .438. So his transition to organized baseball went extremely well. But let's see, last one here, Emerson Hancock. He is ranked number 30. He was recently drafted out of Georgia and, really doesn't have any stats on him but electric stuff here. So out of 30 guys there, what I probably read to you, 15 or so. The other 15 recently made it to the bigs, so I took their names off the list. But that'll do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun recording for you. I know we talked about a ton here today, giving you an update on the minor league negotiations. Is there going to be a baseball game near you this summer if you're in a rural part of the country, Iowa, Montana, wherever you're at? I do believe the answer will be yes, and we should have more answers shortly. So that is good news moving forward. Of course, we talked about the Silver Sluggers, the managerial hires, and then discussing all the top prospects here as we wrap up today's episode. So one last time, I'll tell you, or I'll ask you, check us out on social media. Please rate and review the podcast, but, share us with one of your friends. That one goes a long way. Ask them to rate and review the podcast, because like I said, it sounds silly, it sounds dumb, but clicking that 5-star button and writing a comment, even of great episode, it goes a long way within the algorithm of Apple for helping us grow and helping us continue to produce quality episodes and great content for all you lovely listeners out there within the GSMC Podcast Network. But that'll do it for today. I'm your host, Kevin Mahalik, as always. I do appreciate you guys listening. Enjoy your week out there, everybody, and I'll talk to you again on Thursday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.